Park Min-ji was supposed to disappear forever. The starving factory girl. The girl with nothing. She buried her beneath designer dresses and a new name, and 20 years of cruelty so perfect it became art. Until the night a broke waitress looked at the Empress and saw the terrified girl underneath, and made an impossible choice: expose her or save her. 3 people knew Min-seo Park wasn't her real name. One was dead. One was her husband. And the third was about to discover that some secrets don't destroy people. They free them. This is the true story of how Park Min-ji became the woman everyone feared, how she almost lost herself completely, and how one outsider reminded her she was still human. By the end, you'll never look at power the same way again. Stay with me. In the heart of Seoul's Gangnam district, 47 floors above the glittering city, there was a restaurant where the elite came to see and be seen, and where one woman ruled with absolute power. The staff at the Serpent's Table had a number for Min-seo Park. 17. 17 servers fired in 10 years. 17 lives ended with a smile and a dismissal. Tonight, Ji-woo Kim was determined not to become number 18, or she'd become the one person who finally understood why the Empress needed to destroy. The signal came at 8:47 p.m. Min-seo's fork tapped her wine glass 3 times. The sound every server knew meant someone was about to be destroyed. The glass shattered against marble. Not dropped. Smashed. Sung-ho froze mid-step, tray trembling in his hands. The entire restaurant went silent. 47 floors above Seoul, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Gangnam's glittering skyline, you could hear every breath, every heartbeat. Min-seo sat in her corner booth, table 7, always table 7, dressed in blood-red Dior, diamonds catching light from crystal chandeliers overhead. Her husband Jin sat beside her, one of Seoul's most feared crime lords, but somehow he looked smaller in her presence. Diminished. Like a king who'd married his executioner. "Your sleeve." Min-seo's voice was silk wrapped around a blade. It touched the rim of my glass. Sung-ho's face went white. "Mrs. Park, I don't want apologies. I want you gone." Just like that. 10 years of service. Ended. The manager appeared within seconds, already apologizing, already promising replacements. Sung-ho unbuttoned his vest with shaking hands. 10 years. His daughter's university tuition. Gone. A tear rolled down his cheek, and he didn't wipe it away. Min-seo smiled. Not a warm smile. The kind of smile a predator gives before it strikes. This was her empire. The Serpent's Table wasn't just Seoul's most expensive restaurant. It was neutral ground where Korean, Chinese, and Japanese crime syndicates negotiated in whispers over 30,000 won bottles of wine, where information flowed like blood and one wrong word could start a war. And Min-seo Park ruled every inch of it. For 10 years, she'd made grown men cry, made servers quit after single shifts, made people disappear with nothing but a phone call. The staff had a saying: survive Friday nights, survive anything. Ever worked somewhere you felt invisible? Where one mistake meant you were erased? That was every day at the Serpent's Table. But what none of them knew, what nobody in that glittering tower knew, was that Min-seo Park wasn't even her real name. In the staff locker room below, a young woman was adjusting her borrowed uniform, reviewing reservation notes with the kind of photographic precision that came from years of practice. Ji-woo Kim had 15 minutes before her first shift. 15 minutes before she walked into the predator's den. And the predator had no idea Ji-woo had come hunting. Ji-woo stepped into the staff locker room at 7:30, hands shaking as she buttoned her borrowed uniform. The fabric was stiff, scratching her neck. She triple-checked the buttons. Perfection or death. Those were the only options at the serpent's table. "You're the new girl." An older man appeared. Sung-ho, though he'd just been fired. Why was he still here? Her confusion must have shown. "I came back to collect my final check." His voice was hollow. "And to warn whoever replaced me." He pulled Ji-woo into the corner, voice dropping to a whisper. "That booth in the corner. Table 7? That's where Mrs. Park sits. Wife of Jin Park. You know who that is?" Everyone knew. Jin Park controlled half of Gangnam's construction. Underground gambling. Nightclubs. The kind of power that made politicians nervous. "She'll test you," Sung-ho continued. His hands still trembled from earlier. "Find something wrong. Something to humiliate you with. 3 servers quit after dealing with her. I'm number 4. He looked at her directly. "Just apologize. Stay calm. Survive." "Why does she do it?" Sung-ho's laugh was bitter. "Because she can. Some people use power to build. Others use it to break. She's the second kind." He left, and Ji-woo was alone with her thoughts. And her secrets. The manager didn't know she'd memorized every reservation. Didn't know she'd been preparing for 3 days straight like this was something far more important than just a waitressing job. Her phone buzzed. Text from her landlord. "Rent overdue. 3 days to pay or eviction." She touched the notice folded in her pocket like a talisman. This job was survival. Nothing more. Except it wasn't. Something about Min-seo Park's background didn't add up. The society pages described her as from a private, respected family, but never named the family. Claims of Yonsei University with no alumni photos to prove it. Ji-woo's instincts, honed from years of asking questions nobody else thought to ask, were screaming that something was wrong. Another server passed. Young, Korean, giving Ji-woo the look she'd seen her whole life. The double take. The uncomfortable stare at her brown skin and Korean features existing in the same body. "You're new." Not a greeting. A judgment. "First day. Good luck. You'll need it." The server left. Ji-woo stared at her reflection in the locker mirror. Her mother's Korean eyes, her father's Nigerian skin, never quite belonging anywhere. Have you ever been the only person who looked like you in a room? Where every interaction started with explaining yourself. That was Ji-woo's entire life. Pay attention to what that teaches you. It had made school brutal. Made dating impossible. Made every room she entered feel like she was being judged before she spoke. But it had also taught her to see patterns others missed, to ask questions nobody else dared, to notice when someone was performing instead of being. The manager appeared in the doorway. "Kim Ji-woo?" She nodded. "Table 7 just arrived. You're up." Her heart slammed against her ribs. Through the door, she heard the dining room go quiet. The Empress had entered her domain. "Remember," the manager said softly. "Stay calm. Stay professional. And whatever you do, Don't make eye contact unless she addresses you directly. Jiwoo adjusted her collar one final time, took a breath, stepped through the door into the bright, cold dining room. Minseo Park sat in the corner booth, radiant in red, diamonds catching light from the chandelier overhead. Her husband beside her, looking somehow diminished in her presence. And those ice-blue eyes swept across the room, calculating, judging, hunting. Then they landed on Jiwoo and stopped. Comment, expose, or protect. If you discovered someone's darkest secret, which would you choose? Remember your answer. You'll need it later. What happens in the next 90 seconds determines everything. Stay close. Jiwoo approached table 7, tray balanced, heart slamming against her ribs. Every eye in the restaurant watched. This was the entertainment, watching the new server get broken. Minseo's hand raised. Silence command. Jiwoo stopped. Waited. You're new. Not a question. An accusation. Yes, ma'am. Minseo's head tilted slightly, eyes narrowing. And you're mixed? The question landed like a slap. Nearby tables went silent. Forks paused mid-air. Even the kitchen sounds seemed to stop. Jiwoo's trained mind activated. This was a power play. Acknowledge, deflect, maintain dignity. My mother was Korean, my father Nigerian, ma'am. Her voice steady. Will you be starting with your usual Chateau Margaux? It was a calculated move, showing she'd done her research, refusing to be rattled. For a moment, something flickered across Minseo's face. Not anger. Recognition. This server wasn't like the others. This one thought, planned, prepared. How do you know my usual? I reviewed the reservation history to provide better service. Minseo's eyes narrowed further. Her fingers drummed the table once, anxiety disguised as impatience. Fine. The 2015. Jin Park glanced at his wife, then at Jiwoo. Something passed across his face. Was it pity? Warning? Jiwoo moved through service with mechanical precision, but her mind never stopped cataloging details. Minseo's Korean was flawless. Too flawless. Native speakers relaxed their pronunciation, let regional warmth slip through. Minseo spoke like someone who'd learned Korean as a performance, each syllable perfect, practiced, performed. She name-dropped Yonsei University, but referenced the wrong campus buildings. She mentioned growing up in Busan, but used terms no native would use. Then a server clearing plates nearby said something casual, warm, in the thick Gyeongsang accent of Korea's southeast. Daegu region. Minseo's wineglass stopped halfway to her lips. Just for half a second. Her eyes flickered. Recognition, then panic, then smooth composure returning like a mask sliding back into place. But Jiwoo had seen it. The crack in the armor. You're wondering if she'll break. Wrong question. Ask why she won't. Throughout the meal, Minseo glanced at Jiwoo 6 times. Each glance held calculation, irritation. This server who wouldn't flinch, wouldn't tremble, wouldn't give her the fear she needed. When Minseo spoke to Jin in English, likely thinking staff wouldn't understand, Jiwoo caught something. A slight slip on one word. Can't. The vowel flattened, northern, not the polished Seoul to Harvard English Korea's elite learned. Not even British boarding school accent. Manchester. Industrial British city where Korean elites would never study. They went to London, Oxford, Cambridge. But Manchester? That's where working-class immigrants sent their kids. That's where you learned English because you had to, not because it was fashionable. Ji-woo's mind filed it away. Another crack in the perfect facade. The meal ended. Min Seo left a 200,000 won tip, extravagant even by her standards. But as she placed it, she stared at Ji-woo. "What's your full name?" "Kim Ji-woo, Mrs. Park." "I'll remember that." It sounded like a threat. It was. After they left, Ji-woo found herself in the staff bathroom, hands gripping the sink. Her reflection stared back. Brown skin, Korean eyes, borrowed uniform. She pulled out her phone, opened a secure note app she'd kept from another life. Started typing. Min Seo Park, inconsistencies. Korean too perfect, no regional dialect. Yonsei claims, wrong campus details. Busan background, wrong terminology. Manchester accent, slip. Extreme reaction to Gyeongsang dialect. Conclusion, hiding origin. Possibly Daegu. She stared at the notes. This was dangerous. Digging into powerful people's secrets had cost her everything once before. It could cost her more now, but she couldn't stop. That night, back in her tiny apartment, Ji-woo opened her laptop, started searching. And in a black Mercedes pulling away from the restaurant, Min Seo turned to her driver. "Find out everything about Kim Ji-woo. Everything. 2 hunters. 1 truth." The game had begun. For 3 nights, Ji-woo barely slept. Her apartment became a war room. Laptop balanced on stacked ramen boxes, phone charging cable stretched across the floor like a tripwire. She printed photos on her ancient inkjet, pinned them to the wall with thumbtacks borrowed from her landlord's notice board. Coffee went cold. Her eyes burned. But she couldn't stop. The modeling competition photo haunted her. She'd found it on the second night, buried in a defunct talent agency website from Manchester, 2003. A young woman, maybe 22, bleached blonde hair, heavy makeup. The name beneath, Vicky Park Min Ji, available for promotional work. But it was the background that kept Ji-woo searching. A blurred figure. Male, dark skin. Standing just beyond the competition stage, watching one contestant with unusual focus. The contestant was Park Min Ji. Who was he? She tried every enhancement tool she could find. Most failed. The photo was too degraded. Too old. On the 4th night, using open-source forensic software, she finally got a clear image. A man, Nigerian, mid-30s, gentle eyes, watching Min Ji like a brother watches a sister. Another 2 days of searching. Nigerian community forums, old work visa databases. Finally, Emmanuel Okafor, Nigerian national, Daegu factory worker, 2001-2004. The timeline matched. He'd been there when Min Ji was there. Then she found the transfer records. Emmanuel hadn't stayed in Daegu. In 2004, he'd moved to Seoul, started a business, Okafor Import-Export Solutions. The same year, Min Seo appeared on Jin Park's arm. Ji-woo's pulse quickened. She dug deeper. Found shipping manifests showing regular routes to Lagos, Manchester, Busan. Manchester, where Min Seo's accent had slipped. Then she found the death certificate. 2005. Car accident. Emmanuel Okafor, age 34. Investigation closed quickly. No foul play. 1 year after Min Seo married Jin Park. Ji-woo's instincts screamed. She cross-referenced the date with news archives. Found a small article. Business owner dies in suspected brake failure. The article mentioned one detail that made her blood run cold. Mr. Okafor's business partner could not be reached for comment. Business partner. Min Seo had been Emmanuel's business partner. Ji-woo stared at her screen at 2 a.m., evidence scattered across 3 monitors. Emmanuel wasn't just a kind factory worker. He'd been Min Seo's escape route, her ally, her friend. And he'd died suspiciously 1 year after she married into the Park family. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Ms. Kim. The voice was calm, cultured. Jin Park. I know what you found. I know about Emmanuel. We need to talk. Her throat went dry. How did you? I've been watching you investigate my wife for a week. You're good, but I'm better. A pause. There's a coffee shop on Gangnam Boulevard. Be there in 1 hour. Come alone. And if I don't? Then I'll assume you're working with my enemies, and I'll have to respond accordingly. The line went dead. Ji-woo stared at the phone. Every instinct said run, but she needed answers. She grabbed her coat. 1 hour. The most dangerous meeting of her life. They're both hunting now. Miss what happens next? You'll miss the entire story. The coffee shop was empty except for one customer. Jin Park sat in the back corner, dressed in a simple black suit, looking nothing like the crime lord from the Serpent's Table. He looked tired. Human. Ji-woo slid into the seat across from him, heart hammering. Americano. He pushed a cup toward her. You take it black. No sugar. You've been watching me that closely? I've been watching everyone closely. It's how I've stayed alive this long. He sipped his own coffee, and Ji-woo noticed his hands weren't quite steady. Emmanuel Okafor, what do you think you know? I think he was Min Seo's business partner. I think he died suspiciously. I think your family was involved. Jin's hands clenched around his cup. You're right about 2 of those things. Wrong about the 3rd. He pulled out a folder, slid it across. Emmanuel didn't die because of my family. He died because he was trying to save my wife from it. Ji-woo opened the folder. Police reports, photos, bank statements showing transfers from Emmanuel to a woman with no last name. Just Min. Emmanuel met Min Ji when she was 18, Jin said quietly. Starving on a factory floor. He gave her food, gave her hope. When she decided to reinvent herself, he helped. Lent her money. Taught her about business. He was the one who suggested she target wealthy families. Why? Because he hated people like me. People born into power who use it to crush others. Jin's smile was bitter. He wanted to infiltrate the world that had rejected him, and he found the perfect weapon, a desperate girl with nothing to lose. So Min Seo was his project. At first, but then she met me. Fell in love, or what she thought was love. Emmanuel warned her I was dangerous. She didn't listen. We married within 6 months. Jin's voice cracked slightly. Emmanuel came to Seoul, kept watching her, started the import business as cover, but really he was documenting everything, building a case against my family. Ji-woo leaned forward. What happened? I found out about him, about their connection, about everything she'd lied about. Jin met her eyes. I had him investigated. Found proof he was smuggling, not drugs, not weapons. People. He was running an underground railroad, helping workers escape debt bondage. The pieces shifted. Emmanuel wasn't a criminal. He was a hero. I was supposed to kill him, Jin continued. My father ordered it. Emmanuel knew too much, threatened our operations. But I couldn't. His phone lit up with a notification on the table. Ji-woo noticed the wallpaper. A little girl, maybe 7, in a hospital bed. The screensaver was dated 3 weeks ago. Past tense. Ji-woo understood without him saying. The girl was gone. I waited too long to save someone once, Jin said quietly, not looking at the phone. I won't make that mistake again. He pulled up another photo, showed her a surveillance image. Min Seo, younger, in a parking garage. Next frame, her walking away from Emmanuel's car. Next frame, timestamp showing 3 hours before his brake failure. She did. Silence. Absolute. Why are you telling me this? Jin's composure cracked. My wife is dying. Not physically. But every day she becomes less human, more monster. I've been standing back, collecting evidence, preparing for justice. His voice broke. When I should have been fighting for her soul. What if it's too late? Then I fail, but at least I'll have tried. He pulled out a small recording device. I'm working with prosecutors. Have been for 3 years. Emmanuel's files were the start. But I need more. I need someone inside who can document everything. Ji-woo stared at the device. You're asking me to become a spy. I'm asking you to help me save my wife. Not from justice, from herself. He pushed the device across the table. Tonight at the restaurant, when she breaks, be there. Record it. And remind her she's human. Some say Jin's a hero for turning on his family. Others call him a traitor. Which is he? The answer isn't simple. Ji-woo took the device. I'll be there. Jin's relief was palpable. Thank you. As Ji-woo left, she felt the weight of the device in her pocket. She wasn't investigating anymore. She was part of the story, and there was no going back. Jin just revealed his plan. What Min Seo does with this truth changes everything. Friday night, 8 p.m., the Serpent's table hummed with dangerous energy. Min Seo arrived in white, a shift from her usual red. She looked pale, makeup not quite hiding the shadows under her eyes. Jin walked beside her, and to anyone watching, they looked like the perfect couple. But Ji-woo saw the space between them. The way Min Seo's hand hovered near Jin's arm but never touched. The way Jin's jaw was clenched. Service began. Ji-woo moved through her duties on autopilot, the recording device hidden in her uniform pocket like a ticking bomb. Then, 2 hours in, Min Seo summoned her with a single glance. Wine room, now. Ji-woo followed. As they entered, she noticed something. A tiny red LED light in the corner of the wine room ceiling. Security camera? Or something else? The moment the door closed, Min Seo's composure shattered. I know what you found. Her voice was raw. I know about Emmanuel. I know you've been digging. Ji-woo stayed silent, her hand moving subtly to activate the recording device. What do you want? Min Seo's hands trembled. Money? I can pay you more than Jin ever could. Revenge? I'll give you my husband's entire operation. Just name your price. I don't want anything from you. Min Seo's laugh was sharp. Liar. Everyone wants something. That's how the world works. You think you're different because you're an outsider? She stepped closer. You're just like me. Desperate. Willing to do anything to survive. I'm nothing like you. No? Min Seo paced, heels clicking on stone. You're investigating me to get something back, using me. You think that's noble? You're feeding on my pain just like everyone else." The words landed, because they weren't entirely wrong. Jiwoo forced herself to breathe. "You're right. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand how someone becomes you. But what I found..." She met Min Seo's eyes. "I found Park Min-ji, the girl who survived, and I found the monster she became to keep surviving. And I realized they're both you." Min Seo's face twisted. "Don't. Emmanuel loved you, not because of what you could be, but because of who you were, and you killed him for it." "He was going to destroy everything," Min Seo's voice rose. "Everything I'd built, everything I'd become. He was trying to save you from this." Jiwoo gestured to the wine room, the restaurant, the empire. "From becoming someone who terrorizes people to feel powerful, from losing yourself so completely you can't even remember who Min-ji was." "Min-ji was nothing," Min Seo's voice cracked. "She was weak. She was starving. She was human." Jiwoo's voice was steady. "She had dignity. She survived impossible circumstances. You didn't kill her to become Min Seo. You buried her because you were ashamed of her." Min Seo turned away, shoulders rigid. For 10 seconds, she was silent. Jiwoo watched her reflection in the wine cellar glass. Mascara starting to run, jaw clenched, hands trembling. Then the armor shattered. "You don't understand what it's like," Min Seo whispered. "Being nothing. Having nothing. Watching rich people throw away more food than you eat in a week. The rage, the hunger. The absolute certainty that if you don't take everything, you'll end up dead on a factory floor like my mother." "I know exactly what that's like," Jiwoo said softly. "I've been invisible my entire life. Too black for Korea, too Korean for everywhere else. I watched my career burn. I've served people who look through me like I'm furniture. But I never became cruel. I never forgot that the people around me are human." Silence. Only the hum of the wine cellar cooling system. "Emmanuel." Min Seo's voice was barely a whisper. "He died thinking I hated him, thinking I chose power over him, but I was so scared. Scared of losing everything I'd built. Scared of going back to being nothing." "You're not nothing. You never were." Min Seo looked up, mascara running. "How do I fix this? How do I—" Her voice broke completely. "I don't know how to be human anymore. I forgot." Jiwoo reached out slowly, took Min Seo's hand. "You start by telling the truth. About Emmanuel. About everything. Jin will kill me. Jin already knows. He's known for 15 years. Min Seo's eyes went wide. "What?" The door opened. Director Cho stood there, phone in hand. But it wasn't surprise on his face. It was satisfaction. The same recording playing on his screen that the hidden camera had captured. "I've been waiting years for you to confess, Mrs. Park." He stepped inside, closing the door. "Ever since I installed microphones in every private room in this restaurant. Insurance, you understand." His smile was ice. "Touching confession. Absolutely touching." Min Seo's face went white. "Cho, you just confessed to murdering Emmanuel Okafor, on tape, with a witness." He looked at Jiwoo. "Thank you, Ms. Kim. You've just given me everything I need." Jiwoo's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" Min Seo's voice was hollow. "Everything," Cho said. "The restaurant, your accounts, Jin's operations, all of it. Or I send this recording to the police, the syndicates, and every news outlet in Seoul. Your empire ends tonight. Your choice. Give it to me, or lose it to scandal." Min Seo looked at Jiwoo. For the first time, there was no calculation in her eyes. Just defeat. Just exhaustion. "I'm sorry," Min-seo whispered. "For everything." Then she turned to Cho, and her voice became steady. Clear. "Take it. Take all of it. I'm done running. If you felt that confession, what's coming next will destroy you. Don't leave." Director Cho's smile widened. "Wise choice, Mrs. Park. I'll have my lawyers—" "No." Min-seo's voice was stronger now. "You misunderstand. I'm done. With you. With all of this." Cho's expression darkened. "You think you can refuse me? I have a recording of a confession." Min-seo laughed. Empty. Broken. "Send it. Send it to everyone." "I don't care anymore." The room went still. "Min-seo," Jiwoo started. 20 years, Min-seo said, voice steady despite the tears. 20 years of performing, of being terrified every second that someone would discover the truth, of destroying people so they couldn't destroy me first. I'm exhausted." She looked at Cho. "Do your worst." Cho's jaw clenched. "You're bluffing." "Try me." For the first time since Ji-woo had met him, Director Cho looked uncertain. His entire leverage was Min-seo's fear. Without it, he had nothing. "Fine." Cho pulled out his phone, started to dial. "I'll send it right now. To Jin first. Let's see how long you last." He stopped. Footsteps in the corridor. Multiple sets. Heavy boots. Cho's face went pale. "What did you—" The wine room door burst open. Jin Park stood there, and Ji-woo could smell the rain on his coat, see water droplets falling from his hair onto the stone floor. Behind him, 2 men in plain clothes, detectives, their eyes cataloging everything with professional precision. "Director Cho," Jin said calmly, voice carrying quiet authority. "I believe these gentlemen want to speak with you about embezzlement, racketeering, and conspiracy." Cho's face went white. "You have no proof." "We have 17 years of proof," one of the detectives said, holding up a tablet. "Every transaction that passed through this restaurant, every payoff, every blackmail payment, all of it recorded on servers you thought were secure." Ji-woo's mind reeled. "How—" "Emmanuel," Jin said quietly, looking at Min-seo. "Before he died, he installed monitoring software in the restaurant systems. He was building a case against everyone, including me, including my wife, including Director Cho. He wanted to bring down the entire network." Jin's voice cracked slightly. "I found the files 5 years ago. I've been working with prosecutors ever since, adding to his evidence, documenting everything, finishing what he started." Min-seo stared at her husband. "You've been working to dismantle my family's empire, to make amends for the things we've done." Jin looked directly at her. "Emmanuel was right. This world we built, it destroys everything it touches. I couldn't save him, but I could finish what he started." The detectives moved forward, handcuffing Cho. He struggled. "This isn't over. The network is bigger than me, bigger than all of you. You think arresting me stops anything?" "No," Jin said quietly. "But it's a start." As they led Cho away, footsteps echoed through the corridor above. Police were moving through the Serpent's Table, detaining syndicate members, seizing records. The neutral ground had become a trap. Min-seo looked at Jin, understanding dawning. "You're turning yourself in too?" "Yes." "How long have you planned this?" "Since the day I realized I'd become my father. Since the day I watched you fire that young server for nothing, and I saw you smile." Jin's eyes glistened. "I didn't recognize you anymore. I didn't recognize myself." Why tonight? Jin looked at Ji-woo. Because Ms. Kim reminded me that some people survive without becoming monsters. She investigated us, discovered everything, and her first instinct was mercy, not revenge. That's the person you used to be. The person Emmanuel believed you could be again. Footsteps approached. More detectives. Mrs. Park, one called. We need you to come with us. Min-seo held out her hands for the handcuffs. Then she looked at Ji-woo. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on Min-ji. For reminding me she existed. Min-seo's smile was fragile, real. For the first time in 20 years, I'm not afraid. I don't have to perform anymore. As they led her away, Jin lingered. The recording device I gave you, he said to Ji-woo. It wasn't just for evidence. It was for you. So you'd have the truth. So you could tell the story the right way. What story? That people can change, that redemption is possible, even for people like us. He walked toward the waiting detectives. Write it well, Ms. Kim. Make sure they remember that we tried to be better at the end. Ji-woo stood alone in the wine room, surrounded by $1,000 bottles and the wreckage of an empire. The serpent's table had fallen, but the real story was just beginning. The trial verdict is coming. After everything you've witnessed, you need to see this. That night, Ji-woo sat in her apartment, hands still shaking. The police had interviewed her for 6 hours. The recording device had captured everything. Min-seo's confession, Cho's blackmail, Jin's arrival. She was the key witness in the biggest organized crime case in Seoul's history. Her phone buzzed constantly. News outlets, publishers, production companies. Everyone wanted her story. She turned it off. Stared at the wall where she'd pinned Emmanuel's photo weeks ago. He'd spent his life fighting for people nobody else saw. Factory workers, debt slaves, the invisible. And Ji-woo realized this story wasn't hers to sell to the highest bidder. It was Emmanuel's, Min-ji's. Every person the empire had crushed. She would tell it. But she'd tell it right. 14 months after the arrests, the trial began. In those months, Ji-woo had watched the empire crumble in stages. First came the arrests that November night. Then winter investigations, prosecutors working through Christmas, following money trails across 3 countries. Spring brought indictments. Summer, pre-trial motions. And now, autumn, the trial itself. Seoul Central District Court became the center of the nation's attention. The Park family empire, generations of power, dismantled in open court. Charges ranged from money laundering to conspiracy to murder. Ji-woo sat in the gallery every day, notebook open, documenting everything. Min-seo took the stand in week 2. She looked different. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup. Prison-issue shirt, hair pulled back simply. She looked smaller, younger. More like the girl from Daegu than the empress from Gangnam. The courtroom smelled of old wood and anxiety. Camera shutters clicked like insects. The prosecutor was ruthless. Mrs. Park, did you or did you not tamper with Emmanuel Okafor's vehicle brake system in January 2005? The courtroom held its breath. Every camera focused on Min-seo's face. She looked at the ceiling, then at the jury, then finally spoke. I did. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Why? Min-seo's hands gripped the witness stand. Because I was a coward. Emmanuel loved me. Genuinely loved me. Not for what I could give him, not for who I pretended to be. And when he tried to save me from destroying myself, I killed him. Her voice broke. Because I was more afraid of losing my false life than I was of becoming a murderer. Do you regret it? every second of every day for 20 years. Yet you continued to abuse your power, to terrorize restaurant staff, to manipulate people. Because once you become a monster, it's easier to keep being one than to face what you've done. Min Seo looked at the jury directly. I'm not asking for mercy. I'm asking that you understand. Cruelty isn't born, it's built. One fear at a time, one compromise at a time, one moment when you choose power over humanity. The prosecutor pressed. Your husband claims he was working to dismantle the organization. Were you aware? No. Jin protected me from the truth. He always did. Min Seo's voice cracked. He loved me despite knowing exactly who I was, and I never gave him the same gift. What changed? Min Seo looked directly at Ji-woo. Someone refused to be afraid of me. Someone looked past the Empress and saw the terrified girl underneath. And she asked me a question I couldn't answer. Was the power worth losing my soul? During recess, Ji-woo sat in the corridor, processing. 3 months into Min Seo's imprisonment, she'd learned there had been a suicide attempt. Pills saved from the medical unit. Min Seo had been found, revived, placed in psychiatric care. The woman at the trial wasn't composed because she'd healed. She was composed because she'd finally stopped running. After you've tried to end your life and failed, confession becomes easy. There's nothing left to protect. The verdict came 1 week later. Min Seo's voice, stripped of its usual polish, echoed off marble walls too large for the broken confession they carried. Min Seo, guilty, 15 years, eligible for parole in 8. Jin, guilty, 20 years for his role in organized crime, though his cooperation reduced his sentence. Director Cho, guilty, life imprisonment without parole. The Serpent's Table building sold at auction. The buyer, a coalition of former service workers, funded by Jin Park's seized assets. They converted it into a hospitality training center for at-risk youth. Table 7, where Min Seo had held court, became a classroom. It was over. Except it wasn't. Drop a comment if you believe people can change after doing terrible things. 2 years after the arrests, Ji-woo's documentary premiered at the Seoul Documentary Film Festival. The Serpent's Table, a story of power, fear, and redemption. Played to a packed theater. 40 minutes of interviews, archival footage, and narrative examination of how empires, personal and criminal, are built on fear and maintained through cruelty. But the heart of the film was Min Seo's transformation. Ji-woo had filmed her in prison over 18 months. The documentary almost didn't happen. 3 times, Ji-woo nearly quit. The first time, when Min Seo refused to talk for 6 weeks, sitting in silence across from Ji-woo's camera. The second, when a victim's family threatened legal action. The third, when Ji-woo watched her own footage and realized she'd made Min Seo too sympathetic, erasing the people she'd destroyed. She started over, reframed everything, added victim testimonials, made sure the documentary held both truths. Min Seo was a victim. Min Seo was also a perpetrator. Both could be true. The early interviews showed a woman still defending herself, still performing. Then, gradually, the armor crumbled. Therapy sessions, group counseling with other inmates. The moment Min Seo started teaching financial literacy to women who'd never had bank accounts. I spent 20 years teaching myself how to be powerful, Min Seo said in the final interview, sitting in a prison classroom. Now I'm teaching others how to survive without becoming what I became. How to have money without letting it have you. How to Escape Poverty Without Destroying Your Humanity. The documentary included interviews with former staff. Sung Ho, now working at the hospitality training center that had replaced the Serpent's Table. "Mrs. Park destroyed my life for a year," he said on camera. "But what she's doing now, helping others avoid her mistakes, that matters more than my anger. My daughter starts university next month. The scholarship came from a fund Min Seo started from prison. I didn't want to accept it, but my daughter deserves her education, regardless of where the money came from." The film also revealed Emmanuel's Underground Railroad. 47 workers helped escape debt bondage before his death. Their testimonials, calling him a hero, a saint, a brother, made Min Seo weep on camera. The theater was silent when the credits rolled. Not breathing silent, Ji-woo could hear the man in row 3 shifting, the teenager beside her wiping tears she was trying to hide. Then applause. Not polite, thunderous. Afterward, a reporter approached. "Some critics are saying you went too soft on her, that you're humanizing a murderer." "I'm humanizing a human," Ji-woo corrected. "Min Seo did terrible things. She's paying for them. But if we only tell stories about people being monsters, we forget that monsters are made, not born. And if they're made, they can be unmade." Do you think she's truly changed? I think she's trying, and trying matters. But that night, alone in her apartment, Ji-woo received another message from a family member of one of Jin Park's victims. "How dare you humanize monsters? My father is dead because of them, and you made them sympathetic." Ji-woo stared at the message for hours. The man was right. Her documentary had consequences. Telling Min Seo's story meant, in some eyes, minimizing her victims. There was no clean answer, no perfect justice, only the messy, complicated truth that people can be victims and perpetrators simultaneously. And telling that truth costs something. Would you watch a documentary about a murderer's redemption? Be honest. Your answer reveals more about you than about her. The documentary money paid Ji-woo's rent for a year. First time she'd felt financially secure in years. 3 job offers arrived from major networks. The career she'd lost was back. But so was the weight of knowing that every story has casualties, even the true ones, especially the true ones. That same night, she received a letter, prison postmark. "Dear Ji-woo, I watched your documentary today. They screened it in the prison common room. Afterward, 3 women approached me asking how I survived the factory years. How I kept going when I had nothing. I told them the truth. I survived by holding on to anger and fear so tightly they became my identity. And it took 20 years and a brave waitress to show me I didn't have to anymore. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. Thank you for showing the world that Park Min-ji existed before Min Seo. Thank you for reminding me that she's still here. Emmanuel would have liked you. His Underground Railroad helped 47 people escape debt bondage. Because of your documentary, we've started a fund in his name. Already we've helped 12 more workers gain freedom. Sometimes the dead teach us how to live." Min Ji-woo folded the letter carefully. The story wasn't finished. It might never be. But it was real. And that was enough. 6 years after the arrests. Ji-woo stood outside Seoul Women's Correctional Facility, visitor badge clipped to her coat. Autumn leaves scattered across the parking lot, crunching under her boots. The facility smelled of disinfectant and cafeteria food, institutional smells that made hope feel fragile. Today was different. Today was Min Seo's preliminary parole review, 2 years before potential release. Inside, The hearing room was small and sterile. The parole board, 3 judges, stone-faced and professional. Min Seo sat at the defendant's table, her lawyer beside her. She'd been a model prisoner, taught financial literacy, led therapy groups, started the Emmanuel Okafor Freedom Fund for factory workers' children. But Emmanuel Okafor was still dead. And Min Seo had killed him. "Mrs. Park," the lead judge said, "you're eligible for preliminary review after serving 6 years of your 15-year sentence. Make your case." Min Seo stood. Her lawyer grabbed her arm, but she gently removed his hand. "I don't deserve early parole." The room tensed. "I need to say this." Min Seo looked at the judges. "Emmanuel Okafor was a good man who died because I chose power over humanity. No amount of prison time changes that. No amount of good behavior erases it." "Then why are you here?" the judge asked. "Because the women I teach deserve someone who won't abandon them. Because the Emmanuel Okafor Freedom Fund needs someone who understands poverty, not just studies it. Because I want to spend the rest of my life proving that people can change." Min Seo's voice was steady. "Not for me. For the 18-year-old girl on that factory floor who deserved better than to become what I became." Silence. "If you grant parole, I'll spend every day making amends. If you don't, I'll spend every day in prison doing the same work. Either way, I'm not running anymore." Park Min-ji doesn't hide. She faces what she's done. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. Testimonials from prison staff, inmates she'd helped, even a representative from the Factory Workers Union. Then deliberation. Ji-woo waited outside. An hour passed. Then the door opened. "Conditional early parole granted. Release in 2 years with mandatory community service and continued therapy." Min Seo emerged looking stunned. She saw Ji-woo and walked over slowly. "You came?" "Of course. Why? You got your story. Your career is back. You don't owe me anything." "I'm not here because I owe you. I'm here because I want to be." They walked outside together. The autumn sun was bright, almost painful after the dim hearing room. "What happens now?" Ji-woo asked. "I have a job lined up at a community center in Daegu, teaching financial literacy and life skills to at-risk youth. It doesn't pay much, but—" "You're going back to Daegu?" Min Seo nodded. "I spent 20 years running from that place. Time to go home. Face the ghosts." "What about Jin?" "His first parole hearing is in 6 years. His brother promised to attend, to see if the man who dismantled the family empire became someone worth forgiving. We write occasionally, not as husband and wife, as 2 people trying to figure out who they are without the empire." Min Seo smiled. Small, genuine. "He's teaching literacy in prison," says Emmanuel would have appreciated the irony. They reached the parking lot gate. "Ji-woo," Min Seo said, "that night in the wine room, you asked me how to keep your dignity after losing everything. I never answered." "You don't have to. You remember who you are beneath what the world made you. You hold on to the person you were before fear taught you to be cruel." Min Seo's eyes were clear. No performance left. "Thank you for reminding me who I was. Park Min-ji from Daegu, factory girl who survived. She was worth saving. She still is." They parted ways. Ji-woo to Seoul, Min Seo to a halfway house where she'd start her new job in 2 years. Different cities, different lives, but connected by the truth that some stories don't end cleanly. They just continue, day by day, choice by choice. 8 months later, Ji-woo received an invitation to speak at Min Seo's community center in Daegu. The event. From survival to service. Stories of transformation. The center was packed with young people, factory workers, students, immigrants, people on the margins learning how to survive without losing themselves. Min Seo saw her across the room, waved. She looked different again. Comfortable. Present. No longer performing empress or prisoner. Just Min Ji, teaching others what she'd learned the hardest way possible. After the event, they had coffee in the same factory district where Min Ji had once slept on floors. "You know what Emmanuel told me once?" Min Seo said. "He said cruelty is just fear with a crown. Take away the crown, you find the scared person underneath. Help them face the fear. They don't need the cruelty anymore." Is that what I did? Took away your crown? You refused to let me hide behind it. That's more powerful. Min Seo looked out the window at the factory that had once been her nightmare. This place used to terrify me. Now it reminds me where I came from, what I survived, who I really am. Jiwoo raised her coffee cup. The Empress is dead. Min Seo smiled, genuine, unguarded. Long live Min Ji. They clinked cups. Two women who'd survived impossible circumstances in different ways, who'd found each other across power and fear, who'd learned that sometimes the most powerful victory isn't destroying your enemy. It's helping them remember they're human. Jin's parole hearing would come in 6 years. Sung-ho's daughter graduated university with honors, working now at the Hospitality Training Center, built from the ashes of the Serpent's Table. The Emmanuel Okafor Freedom Fund had helped 73 workers escape debt bondage. And Jiwoo? She kept telling stories. Not to destroy people, to remind them they could change. Some days that felt like enough. Most days it was everything. If you made it this far without subscribing, I'm genuinely curious. What's stopping you? Drop a comment. I read every one.